Hey, what's up guys? I know it's been a really long time, but I really haven't found much in the way of games. So I thought I might try a little something different with my channel. Try to blend some of my other interests. Basically, electronic repair. Things like VHS players, Betamax players, some gaming stuff. I have a few things that I might be able to fix. But first up, I needed to get some new tools. What I was using was an old crappy Radio Shack soldering iron. So I thought, first things first, get a this word. Basically, it's a soldering iron, hot air gun, and it actually has a bench power supply inside as well. It's kind of an all-in-one unit. Usually with the all-in-one units, everything kind of works. It's not the best, but I mean, this was pretty cheap. Found it for 65 bucks on Amazon, so how bad can it be? So let me move the camera and we'll open this up and have a look at it. Okay, hopefully you'll be able to see everything. Now the guy I bought it from off of Amazon seemed like he included a few extra things. Instructions, quality assurance card, warranty card. Said it included like some soldering wick, which I'm sure it's nothing great, but whatever. Some extra tips, some extra airflow nozzles for the hot air station, leads for the power supply part of it, soldering iron stand. There's the soldering iron itself. That holds the air, the hot air gun, and that looks like it. Now these, from what I could gather, these soldering irons are basically Hakko ripoffs, which, whatever, if it works. I'm not against ripoffs if they work. I mean, it'd be nice to have the real thing, but I don't have that kind of money. Let's take this out. And there it is. It's the Yihua, sorry, I can't pronounce that. 853D. There's the temperature gauge for the hot air, temperature for the soldering station, the power supply, and an amperage gauge as well, I think. I think that's what it does. I really didn't read up exactly too well on it. It's supposedly like a ripoff of, like a Chinese knockoff, but they put a seal of authenticity on there, which, I mean, it's an authentic ripoff, I guess, if it is supposed to be a ripoff. On the side, there's a few little screws, and that's what this is. This goes on here to hold the hot air rework, surface mount rework stuff, the hot air gun. But before we attach that, I actually want to take this thing apart and inspect the solder joints on it. I've seen people who had similar knockoffs, and the soldering connections on some of those can be a little wonky, and there it is. You guys can take a look. I'm going to pull some of the boards out and inspect the soldering joints on a few of those transistors in there. Yeah, this board is just held in place by plastic standoffs. There's not even any screws, and it looks like a piece of maybe a spacer, plastic, or some type of a spacer underneath of it. Okay, sorry if the camera looks a little different, but I finally got this thing out. It was a bit of a pain with all the circuit glue. There is a little surface mount capacitor bridged over two of the pins on connector 7, it looks like, which I'm not super happy about that. Here's the connector I was telling you that it's kind of raised up off the board there. I don't know if it's just the plastic of the connector or if it wasn't pressed down very far. It actually looks like they redid that. The solder on there, it looks a little bit different than the rest. If it would focus, there it goes. You can see the rest of them look probably wave soldered, and these looked hand done. This pin right here, it's on this little chip right here. It looks a little suspect right there. If they were easier to get to, I would go ahead and add a little bit more solder down to the bottom of the transistors here, but trying to get to those would be a pain, and they don't look too bad on the bottom. But I think I'm going to put a little dab of solder right on that pin that looks like there's hardly anything there. I finally got this off and seated down flush now. As you can see, I'm happier with that. This other board in here, it's really just for the display and the controls. I'm not too concerned with anything on there. That's just there's no support on this end of this board here. It's pretty crappy, but yeah, I'm not concerned with anything on there. You know, there's no real power. Maybe on the connectors, but I think it'll be good. I was mainly concerned with like the transistors and stuff on here, having a bad solder joint. So let's put this back together and test it out. I got the board back in and actually plugged it in and kind of gave it a little bit of a quick test to make sure I didn't break anything. For a moment I thought I did, because the hot air part was not starting up, and I legitimately thought I broke it. But it turns out you need it won't start up if well, I'll show you once I get this completely back together. But it's got a little bit of a safety feature. When I first turn this thing on, it makes a little bit of a buzzy sound, and did this, and I turned this on and I was like, oh no, I broke it. It wasn't the fan wasn't doing anything, it wasn't heating up, it just was not doing anything. Then I thought, well, maybe it has to start up in the handle, and it does. Once you do this and pick it up, then it starts to heat up and the fan kicks in. And it gets pretty hot pretty quick. And then this acts as a safety feature There's a magnet inside of, maybe inside of here, I think. And when you set it on here, it starts to cool down. The fan keeps going until it gets to, I think, 100 degrees Celsius. 100 until it gets to 100 degrees, and then it turns off. Now the soldering iron, I'm not, holy crap. Look at this. This is my old mains adapter soldering iron. No adjustable temperature. What is it? 30 watts. This was the tip that came on it. It's probably all out of focus, but you could maybe see the difference on this tip that this new soldering iron came with. That's like a hypodermic needle. That's pretty bad. So these, I don't like the cord feel on these. Feels really cheap and almost dirty, or like it's just gonna fall apart. So I'm not happy with that. But you know, what are you gonna do for $65? You know, I think I'm gonna be pretty happy with it. The soldering station. If you hear that, that's my dog. He is being annoying right now and doing a little bark every 5 seconds. The soldering station, if you don't have the iron plugged in and you turn it on, it'll give you an error. So before I do that, I'm gonna change the tip to something a little better. I can go ahead and plug this in now. Turn this off just to be on the safe side, and let's check out the tips that they give you. I think the person that was selling this, I think he just threw these in. I saw this on eBay, I think for like $80. It didn't have any additional tips. It didn't have the I think it maybe came with one of the airflow tips. Didn't have any additional soldering iron tips. Didn't come with the solder wick, which, as I showed earlier, is pretty worthless right now. So it looks like it might be like a well tip. There's a big chunky chisel tip. I'll probably try that out. Few more. There's a bigger well tip for surface mount stuff. That's a very broad head tip there, a very broad tip. There's another one. A good variety of tips. Yeah. We'll see. I think I'm going to stick with this big chisel tip. If I can keep these from falling off my desk. Now to change the tips, I'm sure if you were watching this video, you've probably maybe seen these before. Just slides off. The tip is very loosely held on to the heating element here. Slide on the new one, and supposedly I've read that these can use the official Hakko tips. Not super happy with, like I said, the quality of the core, but you can buy these replacement, the whole soldering irons for like a couple bucks on eBay. So let's turn this back on as I tip rolls away, and let's turn this on, get it heating up. So we'll say about 380. And let me grab, I have an old motherboard over here. Let me grab it and we'll see how well it... I can maybe try to remove something on here, see how well that works. It's all dusty, good lord. That's pretty bad. Alright, as you can see, this thing heated up very, very quickly. Kind of happy with that. My old one, like I said, it took maybe 5 minutes to get that hot. Alright, I don't know if you can see this any better, but we'll try this again. This time I'll try the front. Let me take this back down to 380 and see if it'll do it when I add a little bit of fresh solder to it. And these are actually the ground pins for this PS2 connector. It's the case. Yeah, as long as I add some fresh stuff, it looks like it might be able to do it. So I'm pretty happy with that. My old soldering iron just would not do this kind of stuff. Let's see if I can get it to melt without adding anything else. Let's turn this up a bit. Let's go crazy. Let's go 435. Why not? Where am I? There we go. You might be able to see that. I'll try this one right here. This is what that one. Let me not risk jabbing this straight into my hand. I don't think this is going to do it. No, maybe. Yeah, I think it's starting to reflow there. Yep. Yep. So turn it up a little bit. It'll even take this off without even bothering to add any fresh solder to it. So that's pretty good. But I guess, you know, of course it will. Why not? If I set the iron, whatever temperature I set the iron to, when I turn it off, turn it back on, it stays set at whatever I have it set to. So that's nice. So let's try melting some of this solder with the air. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, I don't have a tip on here. So let's put a tip on. That'll do it enough. And just to show you again, if I turn this on, it doesn't start. Doesn't start up until you set it and pick it back up. Now it'll start up. That's getting pretty hot already. Well, no, it is. It is melting it. It's just not. I don't have a good. It doesn't really look like it's reflowed, but it sucked that out just like nothing. All right, I kind of brought you down to my level. So now, the way I understand the power supply on this works is you flip this on and you have 0 to 15 volts. There's a little 1-turn pot here. You can go, well, it looks like 15.4 might be the supposed max. And then there's, you can test, I believe this functions as like a multimeter. If you go between these two pins, you can test the load, the current, with a 50 volt DC max between these two terminals. If you go between these two, then that's the output. So I don't know that I have anything I could test the current display with. Maybe I could use my multimeter, I'm not entirely certain. I did see somebody say that these leads don't fit on here, and they don't, but I believe you have to unscrew these terminals first, and then they will slip on. So let's find out. Yeah. So with this thing, you have to unscrew the these little screw-on covers for the terminals. Then you can slip on the banana jacks. Alright, I got my old Greenlee DM40 here. So I don't really like this thing. It's I bought it a long time ago. It's manual range. So since it goes up to 15, we'll just do a 9 volt for 9 volt batteries. We'll see. I'd never had this tested to see if it's accurate or not. Let's see. Let me move this light. Maybe we can get some non-glare going on here. We're already seeing, looks like 0.03 volts, and that's with this saying 0. Let's turn this up. 2.4 shows up as 2.5, 3 on here. It's got a 5 volts, pretty close. 5.08. Do the maximum. Yeah, that's pretty close. It's not bad. Assuming this is accurate here. So I'm happy with that. Seems to be pretty accurate. It could be my meter. I wonder. No, it doesn't. That's interesting. That's interesting. I wonder if this will display the current of the voltage at all times. Because when I switch this over, I assume that this would just switch over, but I think this will now display the voltage. I think this will now display whatever voltage is on the leads. If I were to switch the lead, the hot lead here. I wonder, can I do that? I wonder. Hopefully I don't blow this up. If I just plug this in here, will this then show me the reading? Yes, it will. Look at that. That's pretty cool. You can use both at the same time. I did not know that. I thought it was one or the other, but you can use, can't even see what I'm doing. You can use both of these at the same time. You can use the multimeter. It's kind of like a crappy voltmeter, just by having another lead on here. And you can switch, and you can see it's saying it's outputting 8.8 volts. If I switch over, it's saying it's 8.7. I don't really have anything right now that I can test this with. But, I mean, it seems like everything else seems to be working well on this thing, so I'm pretty happy with it. For the price, it'll serve me well. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this little look at the Yihua 853D. Coming up soon, I plan on doing a build video of the DSO shell digital oscilloscope. Now I don't expect it to be a very good oscilloscope, but it looked like it would be a fun kit project to try to build, and maybe it'll work for what I want an oscilloscope for, which is to align the tape path on like VCRs and stuff like that, and just to mess around with. I am keeping my eye out for an actual real oscilloscope, but you know, I don't want to go. I don't want to spend too much money on it. The little shell, the DSO shell that I got, I think it was like $30 from Banggood. Also coming up, I ordered a kit for an ESR meter, so that should be coming up fairly shortly here. I hope you enjoyed the video. See you soon.